Hello, everyone. I am Asha Ponachin, an artist and mental health champion. And today I have in studio with me Sumu Sathi. This is the very first episode of Arts for Mental Health. This podcast is being done in collaboration and by the support of Madhura Geetam. All right, let's start. So, what do I mean when I say arts for mental health? Let's break that down. Mental health, one of the greatest epidemics in the world today. Stress, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, sleeplessness, so many other things that plague our society today. And that is why I've got my guest here, Sumu Sathi, who's a registered social worker, psychotherapist, award-winning social advocate, TEDx speaker, and a Tamil Canadian actor who's also a body positive fashion model. And she has been featured on City TV. Her work for advocacy and community organization has been featured in Toronto Star, Now Toronto, and Toronto.com. Now, having introduced this esteemed personality here, I would like to ask Sumu Sathi here to please share some things about your personal anecdotes and your mental health journey as you feel comfortable to do.
Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate the opportunity and the space to talk about this very important topic, something that's very close to my heart as well. Um, so in terms of my journey, my dad is a refugee from Sri Lanka, and I identify as Tamil Canadian or Ulam Tamil, and I am. After he came here as a refugee, then he sponsored me, my brother, and my mom. So I came here when I was about 14, and there was definitely a language barrier and culture shock that I had to go through because I studied in Tamil. And then I came here, and then, I had to learn. Even though my mom was an English teacher, still we kind of, I think, through colonization, we spoke British English. So here it was the Canadian English, and the accent made fun of that. So kind of struggled through high school with that. And then I went into university, U of T Scarborough, and at about 18 or 19 years old, I started seeing like something was really wrong with me. I was crying. I had all these different symptoms, like feeling low mood. I didn't understand what it was. My mom took me to the doctor and said, "Oh, I think my daughter has hysteria." Like apparently that's the term that is used in the South Asian community. And the doctor, after doing some blood tests, said, "No, your daughter has hypothyroidism." So I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know the impact of low thyroid, what it could do to your mental health and to your body. I ended up gaining 80 pounds in a year.
Oh, wow.
And it was a very difficult year. I had to drop out of school, which I speak about very openly in my TEDx talk, because I wanted to encourage students to understand, they can be going through so many different things while they're, doing their graduate studies or undergrad, and it's okay to, take a step back and take a break and prioritize your mental health and then continue. So that was a huge, I would say, a struggle where at a point where I didn't even see the point of like continuing to live. Like those kind of thoughts did come to my mind. And I think that was, I would say, was like a light bulb moment for me to go into social work. Even though my parents wanted me to become a doctor, I decided,
You're somewhere. Well, you're in the healing. You're in the healing journey.
My brother is a psychiatrist, so he's probably the golden child. But I decided to, go into social work, and that was the beginning of getting to know what mental health is and to start talking about that.
Right. So through your own journey of depression, and a lot of people ask us like, oh, you're having such a great life. You own a house, you earn money, you have family. Why are you depressed? It can be anything as simple as hormonal imbalances. It can be a lack of proper nutrition. It can be genetic reasons. It can be environmental reasons. It can be immigration. It can be so many reasons. And there is not one particular thing like, oh, you lost your job and therefore there is not necessarily something that precedes the therefore. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. And I know that comes from a deep place. So we respect the sanctity of what you have just said, and I'm sure that is helping people who are going through these things, especially if people have other diagnosed medical illnesses. Then you also know it's not that something's wrong with you. It's a symptom of some illness. And you've already segued into your career path. So as a psychotherapist and practitioner in multiple social work and multiple parallel sectors, what are some of the most commonly experienced or prevalent mental health issues in our society?
So currently I have a private practice. So I'm the founder of Shakti Empowerment and Counseling. And I see clients in my private practice and also do workshops. And what I've seen working in social services in the government sector for over a decade, and then to moving into private practice, we have seasonal depression. That happens because in Canada, the minute the weather's fluctuating, you can go through, experience low mood and feeling hopelessness, and sort of struggling to get out of bed and those kind of things. And number two is
Sorry, just isn't it also referred to as SAD, seasonal affective disorder? Like, how appropriate? As if the acronym is actually SAD, seasonal affective depression or disorder or whatever. So it is, just feeling sad.
And the other one is now we're recovering from the pandemic, let's say, and so it's post-pandemic era, and a lot of people feeling anxiety to return back to the office. So that's a big one as well. The commute, the traffic, especially if you live in Toronto, right? Like if you're not living in Toronto, then I'm very happy for you. And the commute and workplace trauma, right? Like the politics in the workplace, that adding, you're kind of on a hamster wheel where you feel like you don't have enough time for your family and for your health. And that kind of contributes to your mental health.
Yes,
right?
So there is anxiety and stress from just traveling and traffic and lack of time.
Right. Yeah. And that kind of leads to people not focusing on their nutrition and lack of physical activity because you're in the car for a very long time. And nutrition is really important to balance your hormones, right?
Right.
And so therefore, it's like taking time to prep the meals and seeing what works for you and going grocery shopping, making your meals. And if you hate cooking, then I understand. Hopefully you're living with someone who loves cooking so they can feed you. But that even if you are doing takeout, then making those healthy choices, because the more you eat like junk food, the feelings of hopelessness and feeling low mood just kind of starts kicking in. Right.
Yeah. So just to recap, there is seasonal disorder, there is stress and anxiety due to lack of time, depending on your lifestyle. There could be multiple requirements of your time. You have young children, family, you're responsible for caregiving for other people, which leads into lack of good nutrition and physical movement. Physical movement is also, it's not just about weight loss or a certain body image or any of that. It really does help balance our hormones and kick in the right kind of endorphins and all of that kind of stuff, which elevates our mood. Which leads me to the next question. I know we didn't actually discuss this next question, so I'm going to throw it at her right now. We are talking about nutrition, and you are a body positive fashion model. So could you go a little bit into what made you go into that, and what does body image, or what was there any anxiety around that or any mental health concerns around that?
I think when I gained the 80 pounds in a year with hypothyroidism in my early 20s, that was a very difficult stage for me because I didn't look like the average South Asian girl. And so a lot of body shaming, which I experienced in social settings, family dinners. My parents had they struggled to understand what was going on with me because they come from a very athletic backgrounds. My dad played soccer for the Sri Lankan team. My mom practices yoga. She's a yoga instructor. My brother is a gym rat. So there was me who is like living in this plus size body, struggling to understand, looking for clothing and finding South Asian clothing in South Asian stores was very difficult. I experienced body shaming there as well. So I think I had to learn to live in that body. And instead of allowing people to put me down, and I did go through a lot of that, binge eating phases where I'm like, what's the point? The scale is not moving. And then 5 a.m. workouts every single day and doing like all these extreme diets to like drop 10 pounds in 5 days and then giving up because your hormones are all over the place.
Yeah.
So kind of, living with that for a very long time, I think I really did a lot of damage to my body. Like I was unkind to my body, and I used to had a lot of core beliefs. If people in therapists, they would understand what I'm talking about. Core beliefs of like, I'm ugly, I'm unlovable, like those kind of thoughts. As I moved forward into the social work space and started going to therapy myself and learning about, what does this mean? Am I going to always live like this? Because this was impacting dating, how you're showing up. I would cancel plans with friends last minute because I feel bloated or I don't feel like, this outfit is not fitting me. If there's an occasion coming up, I'm stressed out and I have so much anxiety leading up to that.
Yeah.
Am I going to fit into this? Am I going to fit into the sari blouse? And, is a sari going to make me look bigger, right? All of that stuff. And I decided to challenge it. I thought, instead of going into a cave and disappearing, why don't I try modeling, right? So I put myself out there, thanks to my sister-in-law who actually supported me and encouraged me to go for a casting call. I did. I went on the runway and then ended up doing approximately 10 episodes on City TV, right? So I think it comes back to, again, like, a lot of reprogramming of my mind, going to therapy, talk therapy, and movement and learning to love my body. It's still a journey.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say every single day is a perfect day. There are days I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, why am I feeling like this? But I know that it's just temporary and how to get out of it.
Yeah. So there might be people out there who are struggling with various kinds of issues, which leads them to not go out, not pursue their passion, not pursue their dreams, not because they feel unlovable and they feel unworthy. And a lot of what you just spoke about was a questioning your own self-worth. And so as Sumu has just stated, she pursued her dreams thanks to support, and we all need support. And has reached here, and we will go further into where here is. So you are also a very well-known Tamil Canadian actor, and I had the honor and privilege of having Sumu work with me on my most recent film, which was also featured in Madhura Geetham. Thank you. So how did that happen from being someone who felt like she's overweight and questioning her own self-worth? You went to do 10 episodes of fashion modeling on City TV and becoming a very well-known actor in this industry. How did that happen?
I'm not sure if I'm very well known. I'm probably in our little circle of like 5 people.
No. Too modest. Modest.
I think it's like, it's very well known. It's just in different contexts, right? And I think for me, it's not about like, are we making it to this big stage and like, millions of followers, but it's more about waking up and being so grateful that I get to live my dreams, right? And it comes with, I've always been in love with social work and acting. I always feel like I'm in a love triangle, right? And I'm so glad that I've gotten a way to like marry them both. And I'm like, like the child now of like social work and acting. But it started about 6 or 7 years old when I was in Sri Lanka, when I would love to do, sorry, my earring just dropped over here.
Wardrobe misfunction. That's okay. It happens. We as artists have to learn to live with it. Yes.
So I started around when I was 6 or 7 years old in Sri Lanka, doing drama and theater, and then dance. Came to Canada. I was the Tamil Students Association president at U of T. Their dance competition, led that. We won in Asia, in Ottawa. So I always had the passion for it, and then went into media, TV hosting, having my own production company. And then about 10 years ago, I acted in my first film, Niyoga, which won the gold at Jakarta, Indonesia, for women, social justice, and zero discrimination. And then I decided, okay, what is it going to take for me to kind of focus on this art? Because I found it as a way of healing. I felt like social work is very heavy. I was working social services, frontline, dealing with individuals living in poverty and coming from various diverse populations that was struggling with mental health, and also wanting to do my second degree and then going into do my master's. I felt all of that was very heavy and was in all these systems. Where can I express myself and heal? And I found acting was a way to do that. So after the first film, I took a lot of time to, learn what I needed, getting my headshots done, demo reel, acting classes for years, and slowly, submission auditions. I think I've submitted to like over 200 auditions, commercials and, TV, like just in the past year and a half. And then since last October, boom, 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 I got 5 films. It's just, I would say it's not luck. It's pretty much preparation.
Hustle.
Preparation meeting opportunity. That's what happened.
Yes, we know that because we had to actually work our dates around Sumu's date and availability. And even this, I had to work it around her availability because she's like, I'm not here second week of August. I'm not here first week of September. I'm like, when are you here? Just tell me that. So thank you. You segued very nicely into acting as healing. So it's one of the many art forms. And as a theater actor and a film actor myself, I also find that we do a lot of practices, whether it is audio, verbal exercises, diaphragmatic breathing, holding ourselves, role playing, a lot of these kinds of exercises, which, yes, while great for acting or movement or performance, is also a huge benefit and an immediate tool that people can use in their daily lives to bring them out of an urgent panic attack or something that requires an immediate solution, even though if whether they require treatment, therapy, or medication or something later on. But that's not always possible, and it's not always possible for everybody to take an hour a day or 2 hours a week, or sometimes there are financial barriers to getting into therapy. Sometimes it's distance. And sometimes it's just a social stigma. I know that in certain communities, including my own community, that there's still a huge stigma around admitting that we have mental health issues, that we suffer from anxiety, or there is this lack of trust or ability to speak up on these topics. So, what are some things that, as an actor, you and as a therapist, as an actor and a therapist, combining those two areas of knowledge for yourself, what are some quick tips and tools that people can use to help them through an anxiety bout or a depression bout or a panic attack?
I'm going to be doing this very non-clinically. So if you need to know what is anxiety, what is a panic attack, please, look it up in a from a credible source to find out what the symptoms are. And please reach out to your family doctor to, get the medical help that you need. What I sometimes come across with clients is that some are not ready for medication because they feel like medication is going to have side effects and all of that stuff. So they want to do it without medication. And in the world that we live in, which is, I call it, colonial capitalist Western world, everything, including therapy, is a very Eurocentric way of processing feelings and talk therapy. Our community is a lot of Black Indigenous people of color communities before colonization had our own practices
Mm.
that were kind of banned as witchcraft or paganism, right? But these spiritual practices is what we used for healing, and food was medicine for us, and the spices that we used, and the land, the connection to the land, and arts was huge. And what we also focused on was collective healing. We will come together to sing, to dance, to perform, and we thought art as a form of healing for not only for ourselves but for the communities as well.
That's true. In places like India, you have 100,000 festivals, 100,000 celebrations. Every other day is a celebration for somebody, and a gathering. Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So if you can connect to your ancestral practice anytime, right? And that's always there for you. You don't need to be stressed out about the labeling of the disorder, or you don't want to call a diagnosis that you have this and then you feel like, oh my God, I have this illness or something. Because if you look at Indigenous communities, they see mental health or mental illness is an imbalance with the nature. So we say, in a city where you're living with a lot of traffic, is there any way you can get some time to walk by the lake or go out with your dog? Just that.
I'm just counting them off.
Yes, 20-minute walk with your family, after work, right? Or a family meal, right? Just cooking and just sitting together and having that meal. Laughter is huge. That's why I say laughter is medicine, right? So, watching something comedic, right? And then laughing. Any form of art, right? If it's poetry, if you want to join a group, there's tons of free groups that you can join for artists, singing, learn a skill. Right? If you want to learn piano, water therapy is huge. You want to go and swim for a little bit, that's great. But if you're feeling anxious, there are things that you can do. You can look up box breathing. And now somatic therapy is coming in, which a lot of people in South Asian communities practice yoga. It has always been there, right? We have different names for all of the asanas and stuff, kind of connecting back to your ancestral practice and things that are great, like our ancestors, great-grandmothers, great-grandfathers practiced. Those are simple things that we can do at home. So looking at that, you know what? I always say therapy does work for many people. It worked for me. So cognitive behavior therapy, which is CBT, which is to kind of reprogram your mind and address your cognitive distortions and core beliefs, you can combine, right? Talk therapy plus lifestyle habits and your ancestral practices, and create something that you like for yourself.
Sumu just mentioned one thing, box breathing, and that does not even take 1 minute of your time. So imagine you're having a panic attack, which actually is hindering your proper breathing. And box breathing is something that just makes you count. So imagine it's like a box, a square one, and you take 4 breaths. You breathe in for the count of 4, you hold for the count of 2, you breathe out for the count of 4, and you hold for the count of 2. It's just that. It's just think of that box, and that is something very, very simple. Do it for 2 or 3 rounds, and you will feel like your heartbeat or your heart rate, which you have felt as elevated during your panic attack or whatever kind of attack there was at that point of time, will return to normal. So that is just one very, very simple thing. You can do it if you're stuck in traffic, if you're driving, you can do it in transit, you can do it anywhere. Nobody even around you even has to know what you're going through at that point of time. Of course, beyond that, you do need more help, but this is just a quick tip, quick tool. And artists do this all the time before we go on stage, before we start rehearsal, before we start a scene. We do breathing practices, and they're more in-depth, called diaphragmatic breathing practices, and we will talk more about these kinds of things in our upcoming episodes. So thank you for being with us today, and we hope this has been helpful to you. Happy mental health.